Welcome to the podcast today, my friend. I'm so glad to have you here with me. We have a special guest today. Dr. Parham Baladandapani is a radiologist in Southern California. And today we're actually doing more of a career for midlife episode than what we normally do. But I thought you would really get a lot out of hearing her story. So Parham is a radiologist in Southern California who, while working full-time and raising two young kids, built a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio that helped her become financially independent at 41, following which she quit her full-time position in medicine to practice medicine on her terms. She is founder and CEO of General Wealth MD and GW Capital, where she has helped thousands of physicians accelerate towards financial freedom through her coaching program and syndication opportunities, helping them build personalized real estate portfolios. She has over a decade of real estate experience investing in long-term and short-term rentals, apartments, and development projects in multiple domestic and international markets with over 2,000 doors and $374 million in assets under management, making her a sought-after speaker in the real estate space. And I thought she'd be a great person for you to hear about today. She's passionate about paying it forward and has helped establish a nonprofit educational trust in rural India that is focused on empowering and educating children with disabilities. Welcome, Param, to the
Heather,
podcast.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you today. You achieved financial freedom at 41 through real estate while working as a radiologist and raising kids. Can you share for our listeners kind of what did that path look like?
Yeah, it all sounds amazing in hindsight, but the path was very, very rocky. Let me put it that way. But I lean into the Buddhist saying, which says every obstacle brings with it an opportunity, and so I've lent into the opportunity, which is amazing. I started off like most doctors, right, investing traditionally stock market and saving, and I call it cruise control mode. So everything's going fine, and I thought I was doing great till my husband and I both worked for the same company, and there was a merger, and the terms didn't make sense, so we both lost our jobs at the same time. My daughter was one. We just got our $1 million doctor home, and for me that was what I called a crash, right? I was like, okay, things, I never want to be in this position again. We found jobs, and 9 months later we were back on our feet, but I wanted to make sure we were never in that position because there was a lot of anxiety associated with that. And then the pandemic hit, and I had modified work hours, and there was no childcare. Kids were home. My kids were little at that point, 1 and 4, I think. And I started burning out. And there was this moment when I would read cases till midnight, kind of to make the next day easier for me so that my workload would be less. And I was getting out of my office one night and I was like, okay, this cannot continue. Something needs to shift. And so that's when I started looking at other avenues for getting sources of income, like having that, almost, I call it a passive income floor, where that money is coming in no matter what happens, and that gives me security. And so the transition for me was more, that was the push, right? So that crash kind of got me thinking about things, and I realized that it would take me 17 years to get to financial freedom investing in the stock market if I kept doing what I was doing, and that wasn't an option. And I had started investing in real estate, but I didn't really understand it as well. And I looked at it and I said, I came up with a 3-year plan. I said, okay, if I scale the real estate, and then I started deep diving, educating myself, learning more about how I could really add momentum to it. And I ended up getting to financial freedom in 1 year. And so for me, that was the aha moment. I was like, oh my God, like all of us struggle with the same things. And I tell people this: if you're in cruise control mode, it's not a question of if you crash. I think most people will have a life situation that really makes them re-examine things, where they would make very different choices if they had that passive income floor. And that's why I built the community, Generational Wealth MD, and then I started educating people and coaching them on how to really accelerate their financial freedom so they can replace their income and practice medicine on their terms. And then GW Capital was born because most doctors want to be very passive in terms of their investments. They don't want to really be active. And so we built that out. And then GW Gives, which is my passion project. So initially my why was I needed to have the security for my family, but now I also want to have more impact in the communities we serve. And so GW Gives, the nonprofit work, is that's close to my heart. But that's been my journey, and I think most people can relate to it. It came from a place of, of having a challenge and then working past it.
Nice, nice. Now, for those that aren't doctors, radiologists and many doctors, you show up and the work is there and you do the work that is there, right? But that is very different than running a business where you have to set up systems and manage your time. And that is a big transition. Can you talk a little bit about that for you?
Okay, that's a very interesting question, Heather, right? Because so there are three things that I do. So three pathways, right? So medicine, yes, you said it's very structured, especially if you're an employee, right? If you have a W-2 job, it's very structured, unless you're running your own practice, which is almost like a business again. And then real estate, and I say real estate can go different ways. You can run that like a business. Some people
Hmm.
do short-term rentals, they syndicate, and that's like a business also. And so you understand that because I know you have that background. Or you can
Yeah.
have it completely hands-off. Right now, my real estate is super hands-off. I travel to India 8 months in a year and it runs automatically, right? So I have teams set up over there. And that's less intensive. But what I do now with the community and education and the coaching is a business, right? It started off as a passion project. I was like, I'm going to write a blog post every week and we're going to spread the word. And that was pretty passive. But now, yes, we have team members and we have coaches and consultants who work for us. So it is a business and it's different because it was a learning curve. I am what you call an artist. I love content creating. I love taking care of things and making sure it comes out perfectly. And I think that's true for a lot of us as physicians, right? We're very detail oriented. And so I had to step out of, okay, this is a passion project, great, and I love doing this and I love educating, but the business part of it needed to be I needed to shift from being the operator, kind of going in and doing things, to being the owner.
Hmm.
So that's a work in progress. But I love educating. I love content creating, and so I reserve that. That's what I do, the bulk of what I do. But the rest of it, the challenge and the growth has been in building out systems and having team members who can do the work. Where I just have optics, I have a scorecard. I look at the optics, and then I fine tune things, and then they go and execute. So then the goal is to get it to which I think we're pretty close to being there. 2 hours a day that I'm spending in the business per se as the owner, and then kind of leading and guiding the team. And so, yeah, so it's been a learning curve. It's almost like you go to med school, you learn all of this, and then you practice as a radiologist, and then you'll learn everything to become this real estate investor who has a framework that really works. And then you become this business owner, and there's a learning curve over there. But it's all been fun. And I know you talk to a lot of mid-career women, and I
Hmm.
think the funny thing, because even within the coaching program, when students come in and I'm like, okay, so why is this important to you? The income part is obviously there, but I think for a lot of us, and this is what they call midlife crisis, right? It's about doing this thing. You have arrival fallacy, you get to this point and you've been working hard to get it and you have this goal. And then you come here and I think 10 years into practice, most people get to this point where it doesn't feed their soul the way it did, and it's
Hmm.
about growth. And so I find that for me it's been it's really feeding that growth and contribution buckets for me, which is what keeps me going. I'm sure a lot of your audience can relate to that also.
Yeah, I think that's really true. We've all worked really hard for a lot of years, and then all of a sudden you think, oh, wow, do I just keep
Yeah.
going? This is a lot of work already.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and I felt also starting a business that the growth, the personal growth was pretty enjoyable and amazing, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's such a valid point. And you hear this all the time. People will say business growth is actually spiritual growth, right? It's the growth
Mhm.
of the self. And you don't know it until you've done it. But a lot of it is about learning to deal with the ups and downs and to show up as a leader every day. You're leading yourself, but you're also leading your team. And honestly, I feel like it makes me a better parent. It makes me a better person and a
Yeah.
better friend also. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Did you get any pushback from people when you changed from being a doctor to, doing doctor work to being a business owner and running a real estate empire?
Yeah, well, funny story, because like even as a radiologist, right? Sometimes I don't know, it's funny because people will say, "Oh, you're a radiologist, not a real doctor," right? And so I used to get that a little bit in the beginning, and they're like, "You know
Uh-huh.
what? Okay, wait, okay, that's fine." People don't get it sometimes, but then when I started investing in real estate, and I'm investing in real estate, right? And then I'm coaching and helping others invest in real estate, I started getting, "Oh, you're now a real estate agent," and so there was that barrier there. So all of that was really hard to process. But I was telling you this before we hopped on. I think the hardest thing in terms of identity was for me to accept that I was stepping away from medicine. Because I think when I hit financial freedom, I love what I do. I love going in and interacting with, I'm a breast imager. So a lot of what I do is with breast cancer treatment, survival diagnosis. And I think it's just amazing when you watch those people who are going through all of that, have so much gratitude. There's so much you learn, and then you help make their journey a little smoother. I love doing it. I would have done it if I could have. And I went down to a day a week in medicine. But then when the company started growing, and that wasn't the original plan, that's just what happened. I had to step away from clinical medicine completely. And that was hard because it was giving up a big part of my identity. Even like one day a week, I felt like, that's it. I love what I'm doing. And this is what I spent 25 years of my life doing. But I think the identity shift more so, and this is true for anything, right? It's always what's coming from inside as opposed to what's coming from outside. And yes, people can have different perceptions. There are those who love it and appreciate it, and then there are those who are critical of it. But I think the biggest shift was internal, where it was I needed to embrace that I did that for 25 years and I love it, and it's okay, giving myself permission to completely embrace who I'm becoming now and lean into it. And that gives you the strength to kind of address other people's concerns or help them shift their perspectives about what life in medicine looks like. And I think we're in a wonderful time right now because like you and Amr and so many people in the communities that we're in are doing things out of the box. And so it doesn't feel so we're almost normalizing doing things other than medicine, taking breaks from medicine, traveling the world. And so I think it's a very easy time to be doing what we're doing. But yes, the biggest challenge is always how we embrace that identity, and that has been a struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of us do. Most professional women have spent a lot of time in one arena. And if it's a big enough shift, it's kind of like, can I be this new person? So I appreciate what you said about that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the person who was in the way the most was me, and I had to get out of the way. And coaching helped, and seeing other people do it really helps.
Yeah. Yeah, I ended up also getting a lot of coaching to change gears and did have people who just reach out and said, I can't believe you're not in the regular clinic anymore. What
Yeah.
are you doing?
I hear you. I hear you. And I think another piece to that puzzle is also like the distinction between growth and when is enough, right? Why do you need to be doing new things? Why isn't it just enough to be where you are? And that's a question I've struggled with a lot also. But I think
Mhm.
what it comes back to, I'm sure you felt the same way, Heather, is that as human beings, what gives us joy and fuels us is always growth. And you can't really stagnate for too long. We need to keep growing in some sense, and whatever that purpose is, right? Is it, some people focus on their kids and it's
Mhm.
parenting, or it may be your health and wellness, or it could be your finances, or just, contributing. I think that growth piece is super important. And there are times when you feel like, you know what, enough, it's enough, you don't need to go that way. But we are always drawn towards that. I feel drawn towards growth, and I'm sure
Yeah.
people in your community do too. So what are your thoughts on that, Heather?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. We do alumni calls with my group because I want people to have, kind of ongoing support. And someone came and said, I've had this whole year where I've kept this weight off and now I really just want to have some strength goals. I've done some
Yeah.
strength training, but I really want to get stronger and really notice it. And I just in my mind, I thought, yeah, she really wants the growth
Yeah.
of her health as she's moving forward. And first it was weight
Yeah.
loss, and now she's like, I really want to get the muscles.
I know. I hear you. And that growth is important, although it is hard getting out of your comfort zone. So
Mhm.
this year, for the first time, we've held virtual events, multiple. We've had 20,000 doctors join us in our virtual events, but this is the first time we're doing our in-person event. And Heather, I know you're speaking at the event, so I'm
Yeah.
super excited for that, where we're talking about finances and wellness, right? Because we're
Mhm.
talking about physician burnout. I think there are multiple pieces to it, and a big part of it is wellness and the way we think about things and how we take care of our bodies and treat ourselves. But finances, I think, is a big part of physician burnout because having those alternative streams of income
Mhm.
gives us options. But this has been a challenge for me because it's a whole different ball game, with the in-person event. But I think it's a challenge, and we all enjoy challenges. And so it's that growth. Okay, I need to do this because this is what I think is great for the community, and we push ourselves in many different ways.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Do you want to talk a little bit more about how you serve your colleagues in the doctor community through your businesses?
Yeah, so I think it started off as an education platform, Heather. So I have a podcast, the Generational Wealth MD podcast, where I talk about financial freedom and how people need to think about things. 'Cause I think the two big things I saw, at least in my journey, and I see this over and over again. I've talked to thousands of doctors, and everyone has the same challenge, is that we think about getting to a place where we're comfortable in terms of retirement as working harder and saving more, and that's going to speed the path, but it's more about asset allocation. I mean, that's the one big thing that really compresses those timelines to financial freedom. And most people have barriers to investing in real estate or getting into anything apart from stocks and bonds. And so my goal is to like break down those barriers, help them see what the rewards are and how it actually lowers risk in their portfolio and thinking about that. And then the journey is not the same for everyone. Some people will thrive in running short-term rentals, and some people will be better off just investing passively in syndications. And so educating around all of that. We have a podcast. We run virtual events. We're actually doing one right now. It's the 10X event, where we walk people through the framework that I used, and that is replicable so that they're not learning from scratch. They're just modeling success over and over again. And all of that is free content that we put out there so people can learn from it. We also have a coaching program. And this is where, the people who are really motivated and really want to take action come in. And in 1 year, they save $800,000 of clinical income from taxes, and they generate multiple, six figures in revenue from a single property. A lot of that happens within the cohort where they have the coaching and the community and
Mhm.
agents. And like I mentioned before, GW Capital is where we built out a private equity fund, where we give people the option to invest passively in real estate. So that's another way to break that barrier of, okay, well, don't have too much time. I really don't know much about this. How am I going to get started? And so a lot of it is education, which is the first piece, but then also how do you take action if you want to either build your own portfolio or do this passively? And so we give people options, and then there's also the impact investing part. And so we help children with disabilities in rural India, and we want the community to take pride in that, because I think, especially as physicians, professionals, we want things to have more meaning and depth to it, and I think that happens when with the GW Gives piece.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I think you're right. We're all helpers and keep wanting to increase our impact there. So that's really
Absolutely.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I actually met you through a mastermind that we're in together, but then I started following you on LinkedIn and really enjoyed kind of the way you explain
Oh, thank you,
real
Heather.
estate. Yeah, because you go through deals and scenarios and do the math, but then when there's like multiple layer, like you're looking at a spreadsheet and there's like 10 lines of
Yeah.
different math things, just be like, okay, this one is the one we're really looking at right now. And this is what we
Yeah.
want it to be, and this is why. I just appreciate and encourage people to connect with you online because I think you really explain things in a impactful way, and it's very helpful for understanding
Thank you.
risk.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of it is how it's presented, because sometimes when I listen to things, it overwhelms me. And if someone's overwhelmed, then they're not going to process the information or take action. And so a big part of what I like to do is, and I'm still learning, right? Make it visual, make it simple,
Mhm.
break it down so they can connect to it and really understand it. Because I used to do this when I was a kid. I used to help tutor other kids learn math. And there was this kid who
Mhm.
would get like 60%, 70% of the questions right. And then, I just sat with him for an hour and he got 90% of it right, because the concepts are simple. Sometimes it's just the way it's explained. So yeah, I'm an educator at heart.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. You've had a fascinating journey, and I think that your story gives people some ideas about ways to be brave and try something new, and to look at, like you said, to look at challenges as opportunities. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. I love the opportunity to come chat with you. Obviously, I learned so much from you, and I've signed up for your events also because
Yeah.
uh, I'm getting to the point where I need a little help. So that's awesome. And for anyone listening, Heather and I are both going to be at the Physician Freedom Summit this fall, and so if I'm sure you'll drop the link in the chat, and
I
love for
will.
you to come and join us. There is a virtual option. There are CME dollars that you can use, and so and we have a lot of wellness workshops also. But if you want to connect, generationalwealthmd.com, there's always tons of resources and links to the podcast and stuff if anyone wants to learn.
Great. Yes, I will make sure that there are links to the conference that is going to be in October and all the different ways to connect with you online. So thank you
Thank you,
again, Param.
Heather.
I really appreciate you sharing this with our group today.
Absolutely. And I love what you do. And thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you. Hello, this is Dr. Heather Awad. If you are a professional woman and looking for support right now to lose weight for the last time, I invite you to join us at Reset and Release. Here you can lose the weight without counting calories or sacrificing your lifestyle. Weight loss seems hard, but it's not your fault. You've counted the calories, you've tried to do everything right, but no one told you what to do when your hormones rewrote the rules. That's where Reset and Release comes in. It's a midlife solution rooted in science, support, and sanity. You don't need willpower. You won't be left hungry. These are just real strategies for real life. So Reset and Release will help you lose the weight that perimenopause and menopause won't let go. It's a 4-month group experience for smart, capable women ready to lose the stubborn weight of the menopause transition without counting calories or sacrificing your lifestyle. This is a high-touch, small group program, and if you're interested, please come to my website, heatherawadmd.com, and join us at the beginning of September for this transformative experience.